So I had an idea for a video project, and I got this idea from Paul Davids, who is a guitarist, a great guitarist, and a YouTube content creator, where he asked 9 other guitar players to all solo over a set of chord changes that he sends them. Then he asked them to talk a little bit about their gear and their setup, and a little bit about their approach and any musical ideas or techniques they may have used in their solo. And the resulting video was very interesting because it showed the different approaches and different techniques that the different players used. Well, after doing a little more video surfing, I found that this is a common idea amongst several YouTubers. For example, Andrew Huang has a series where he has 4 producers flip the same sample. And then there's David Bruce, who's a composer, who has a series where he asks 4 different composers to all write a song based on certain parameters that he gives them. Well, I thought this was a really cool idea. So I thought I would give it a shot with some of my fellow saxophone players. So I asked 3 saxophonists to solo over a set of chord changes that I sent them, and then talk a little bit about their setup as well as any musical approaches they may have taken. So here's what I sent to all the players. I'm going to play it now without anybody soloing over it so you can hear what it sounds like. Now this is all programmed, so it's going to lack the feel of having a real band there. But for the sake of this video, it'll do. So first up, we have Jimmy Bowland. Jimmy is one of the top studio saxophonists and doublers in Nashville. He's worked with many artists both in the studio and on the road, including Aretha Franklin, Brenda Lee, The Temptations, The Four Tops, Shania Twain, Kelly Clarkson, Garth Brooks, Jamie Johnson, and the list goes on, so many more. So let's hear what Jimmy does over these changes.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Bowland. I'd like to thank Chris West for putting this video together. I want to talk a little bit about my approach to this solo. Just looking for what I call the Rubik's Cube of figuring out the spaces, the voice that it needs to have, and the dips and turns that just feel natural. I always try to tell a story, play somewhat simple licks and then build upon those concepts, just kind of iconic kind of blues licks and with some twists and turns on them. Well, when I heard the chord changes for this, it just made me think of New Orleans kind of blues jazz for some reason. Also, I had just gotten a call to play a recording session on Barry sax in a few days, so I had the Barry around my neck when I first listened to the changes. Also, I was thinking perhaps the other sax players maybe wouldn't do Barry, so it'd be an opportunity to hear a different voice. I don't know, maybe everybody picked a Barry. You're going to hear 5 Barry solos. I love this horn. This is a horn made by Oleg out in Los Angeles. It's a gold-plated, low A, of course, Barry. It's called his Maestro. The mouthpiece on this is one of Oleg's mouthpieces. It's a Contempo, and just really like it. It's very versatile. The ligature is a BG Duo that I adapted to fit this mouthpiece. I made these little shims to go on the side of the mouthpiece. I just used some low heat hot glue to put those on so that the ligature fits and just floats on the mouthpiece. It's a great ligature. A friend of mine jokingly calls these shim wows. I decreased the bore size on this Barry by making this aluminum fitting. I lathed it out of aluminum and then coated it in copper tape, which I like. The copper tape to help just make it fit very snugly, and it reduces the diameter of the horn. I have another mouthpiece that works really well with the horn when I take this out, and then it's a truly large bore Barry. So I kind of get 2 horns for 1 with this little gadget that I made. Once again, Oleg told me that something like this could work, so I just experimented with it, and I'm very happy with it. I'm sure our information will be on this video. If anyone wants to ask me any more questions about this, I'd be happy to tell you what I know about it.
Next up, we have Ryan Middagh. Ryan is a fantastic saxophonist, composer, and arranger based out of Nashville, Tennessee. He's the director of jazz studies at the Blair School of Music at Vanderbilt University. Ryan is also another one of Nashville's top studio saxophonists, and he also has his own big band called the Ryan Middagh Jazz Orchestra, who's collaborated with many artists such as Keb Mo and Wycliffe Gordon. So let's hear what Ryan does over these changes.
Hi, my name is Ryan Middagh. I'm a saxophonist, composer, arranger, and educator based in Nashville, Tennessee. It's really grateful that Chris asked me to talk about a few things. First of all, my horn, what I played on that solo, this is my Yamaha 62. It's a little custom-made, de-lacquered bell, gold-plated neck. My mouthpiece is a D'Addario Select, Jazz Select. I forget which opening this is. I think I'm playing on an 8. I have a few different ones. I have a 7, an 8, and a 9. As far as a microphone, I'm actually not too fancy when it comes to the home setup. COVID's kind of been a surprise. I usually enjoy recording in the studio, but been really enjoying playing with this little Shure microphone that you can just plug into the end of your iPhone. It's been really great working with that, and then maybe playing with a few things into Logic. And so, yeah, what I did on the actual solo, really on a short solo like that, I really like to balance playing blues, playing lyrically, but then balancing it with some bebop lines. If you listen to records like the Nancy Wilson Cannonball Adderley record, it's a really good example of small, short solos, and you listen to Cannonball, and he's really balancing lyricism, blues, and bebop really well. And as much as I am not Cannonball Adderley, I try to strive to that balance in especially a short solo like that. There's some dominant chords within there that I'm implying 2 5s that function within that. So I believe one, there's like a G13 chord, playing a lick like, resolving it like that, approaching it kind of as a 2-5 versus just the dominant chord. And then using, there's a diminished 7 chord in there, and just outlining the chord with some lower neighbors and triplets. Just like that. So yeah, that's just kind of how I approach that tune.
So next up, we have Derrick Williams. Derrick is an incredible saxophonist hailing from Memphis, Tennessee. He works a lot on the local music scene in Nashville, not only doing gigs, but also studio work. Derrick is also an incredible arranger that does a lot of remote arranging and session work from his home studio in Nashville. And on a side note, he's also an incredible singer. So let's hear what Derrick does over these changes.
How you doing? My name is Derrick Williams. I'm one of the sax players privileged to contribute to this project. I play tenor, alto, and baritone sax. I play a Phil Barone tenor saxophone, and I also play a King Super 20. I play Sios mouthpieces on my alto and tenor, and they work great for me. You can kind of order them to spec, and I know y'all have heard about those, and they're really great. I really love it. And Rigotti Reed, somebody told me about those, and I've been playing those for about a year. I just recently got Nathan McLeod to make me one of those heavy neck screws. I've been seeing them and hearing about them for a few years, so I'm just in the early stages of checking it out and seeing what it does. But I record on this Groove Tubes microphone. I use a MacBook Pro. I'm using Pro Tools Ultimate, I think it is. I tried for the longest to, use Pro Tools 8 and whatever, so I wouldn't have to pay that monthly subscription, but I went ahead and had to bite the bullet. That's about it. I appreciate y'all, appreciate this opportunity, and hopefully this thing will turn out as great as I think it's going to be. Thanks a lot.
And now it's my turn. Now, I recorded my parts before I listened to anybody else's. That way I wouldn't have been influenced by what anybody else played. So let's listen to what I did. For this particular song, I was playing on my Busher 400 top hat and canes from the mid-50s, and playing on my Theo Wani Gaia, the original Gaia. I'm on a Rigotti Gold Reed, and for my recording setup, I've got a handmade ribbon mic made by my good friend Nathan McLeod, who's also a sax player here in town, and he makes ribbon mics for a few guys in town, so I have a feeling you might see his mics in a few other videos as well. That is going into my Universal Audio 610 solo preamp, which is then going to my RME Fireface 400 interface into my iMac. As far as how I approach this solo, this one, I listened back to it, it's kind of interesting because I started and ended kind of similar. Like the very beginning of the solo is very angular, it's kind of outside, a little sporadic, and then it kind of slowly morphs its way back into a tonality, into kind of normal sounding stuff. And then that eventually gets to the turnaround, which I kind of play this motif. But then the end of the solo, like the beginning, it kind of goes into this kind of sporadic descending chromatic thing where I'm kind of using, a lot of bends and kind of more tonal things and playing a little outside, but then that slowly morphs back into a tonality which takes us, out of the solo. So it was kind of interesting. I had fun with this one. Well, that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun making it. I'd like to give a huge thank you to Jimmy, Ryan, and Derrick. You guys were phenomenal, and there's more to come. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time.